23andMe is more than a genetics company.
Hey, our 23andMe results are out!
We are an activist brand that is approaching healthcare and drug discovery with the individual at the center. We are going to continue pioneering a consumer-centered, personalized healthcare world.
Many tech companies have seen their prices go down, so you have as well, I assume.
We have as well. So we're a complicated story.
23andMe is a genetic testing company and one of Silicon Valley's most promising startups, or we can say it was one of the hottest startups in the world, because millions of people were spitting into its test tubes to learn about their ancestry. Oprah had named its kit one of her favorite things. Lizzo dressed up as one for Halloween. Eddie Murphy name-checked the company on Saturday Night Live. People all over social media were sharing their results with the world.
This girl got a little nigga in her, like something.
I got 38.7% Somali. I got Ethiopian Eritrean 12.6.
It says you're 99% Korean. Okay, what's my 1%? Aho.
But now the company is fighting for its survival. 23andMe has since suffered a staggering 98% drop in valuation from its peak of $6 billion. The company is now plagued by privacy concerns and battles with hackers who managed to steal genetic data from its platform. And it's facing challenges with its business model and ongoing worries about data privacy. The company has seen its valuation dropping to nearly zero, putting it at risk of being delisted by Nasdaq. The company reduced its staff by a quarter last year through 3 rounds of layoffs and a subsidiary sale, and 23andMe has never made a profit and is burning cash so quickly it could run out by 2025. 23andMe is currently going through tough times as it struggles to survive in this challenging environment. But what happened? Allow me to tell you a story of the rise and fall of Silicon Valley's most promising startups, 23andMe. The story starts with Ann Wojcicki, the daughter of the one-time chair of Stanford University's physics department and a high school journalism teacher. She grew up on the campus of Stanford, where her father taught physics. Her mother is known as the godmother of Silicon Valley for teaching the children of tech titans at Palo Alto High School for decades and publishing how to raise successful people based on her own daughters. She went to Yale, where she played ice hockey, and after college, she bounced around hedge funds and private equity firms analyzing healthcare companies. 2 formative things happened during this period. She saw a crash in healthcare stocks and how companies responded by pinching pennies on innovation. She then decided that she wanted to help consumers take more control over their healthcare. Ann met Sergey Brin. In 1998, Sergey Brin and Larry Page rented her sister Susan's garage to be the first office for their new company called Google. Susan would become an executive in its advertising business before running YouTube years later. The idea for a direct-to-consumer DNA testing business came from Ann Wojcicki and Linda Avey, a genetics expert. Sergey Brin had expressed interest in Linda's prior works, so in 2005 she shared her idea with him. That's how Linda met Ann, Sergey's girlfriend at the time. Ann was smart and driven, and Sergey could be a powerful backer. If these 2 ladies want to get Google's support, Ann could help cement that support because of her relationship with Sergey. In 2006, Linda Avey, Paul Kuzenza, and Ann Wojcicki founded 23andMe with the vision of using genetic information to revolutionize healthcare. The company's goal was to empower people to understand their health through accessible genetic tests. Sergey gave the company its first capital and vetted some early hires. Google put in money too, announcing its investment 2 weeks after Sergey and Ann married in 2007. Please subscribe if you find this video informative, and please hit that notification bell so you will be notified when we drop another video. The company gained popularity by offering genetic test kits as gifts, and Ann helped build 23andMe brand by organizing spit parties where guests gave DNA samples. They collected celebrity saliva at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2008 and again at New York Fashion Week that year, where Barry Diller, Rupert Murdoch, Harvey Weinstein, and Diane von Furstenberg headlined a 23andMe gathering after meeting Ann at an Allen & Co. conference she had attended with Sergey. The company's retail DNA test was named Invention of the Year by Time magazine in 2008, and their DNA database blew up with more than 100,000 customers by 2011. And just like that, Ann went from little-known former financial analyst to Silicon Valley star. However, the company's first national advertising campaign in 2012 caught the eye of the Food and Drug Administration, which halted sales of the health test, citing a risk of false reports. 23andMe had taken a cavalier approach to regulation, typical of Silicon Valley, and hadn't gotten FDA authorization to market its test. Ann said the company had actively engaged with the FDA before the sales halt but hadn't communicated effectively. After 2 years and millions of dollars spent validating its health reports, 23andMe was cleared to sell them again. After receiving FDA authorization, its test became a viral sensation. Stories spread about people discovering unexpected parents or siblings. It took 9 years to get to 1 million customers, and just 3 more to get to 8 million. In 2019, Ann moved 23andMe into a new Silicon Valley office building with enough space to double its staff. Her plan was to sublet the rest, though the pandemic made that impossible. Free weightlifting, yoga, and meditation classes were taught in the first-floor gym. At its new gourmet cafeteria, 23andMe, chefs fermented fresh pizza dough overnight and stocked the oatmeal bar with locally sourced bee pollen. In 2021, the company went public during the SPAC boom, a time when hundreds of risky companies making bold projections sold high-priced shares to investors. 23andMe became a publicly traded company and soon had a market capitalization of $6 billion. The special purpose acquisition company that worked with 23andMe was backed by Richard Branson, whom Ann had first met more than a decade earlier, when Branson invited her and Sergey to a philanthropic gathering. Ann was paid $33 million that year, nearly all in stock. The year before the offering, Ann received $20 million in stock. The year after, she received just her base salary of $62,480. Despite CEO Ann Wojcicki's bold initiatives, 23andMe was struggling to turn a profit, putting its ambitious goals at risk. While the home DNA test for ancestry and health risks was initially successful, the challenge arose from the fact that customers only needed to take the test once. This forced 23andMe to continuously find new revenue streams, leading to unsuccessful attempts such as a subscription service and drug development. Like many Silicon Valley startups, it's still working out how to turn a profit. Revenue for the fiscal third quarter was down 33% compared with the same period last year, from $67 million to $45 million. Its net loss for the quarter was $278 million, compared to $92 million for the same period the year prior. The company blamed the revenue loss on decreased sales of genetic testing kits and lower research revenue after its 5-year exclusive collaboration with pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline ended in July of last year. With so many DNA samples banked, 23andMe dialed up drug development, splitting costs and future profits in a deal with pharmaceutical giant GSK for therapies discovered inside 23andMe database. Unlike most small biotechs, which focus on a few areas, 23andMe investigated treatments for dozens of diseases. The payoff could be big, but any one drug can cost hundreds of millions of dollars and take 10 years to get through clinical trials. 23andMe says it has found more than 50 drug candidates. So far, 2 have made it to early-stage human trials. Later this year, data could be released that will show whether one of them works. By 2022, the drug development effort grew to a 150-person outpost in South San Francisco, one that would carry forward research after GSK's deal to share costs ended. Ann said that she assumed she would be able to raise additional capital to support her development effort. But when that time came this year, interest rates were high and small drug company stocks were out of favor. Unable to raise money, Ann was forced to cut half the development team last summer. To create a recurring revenue stream from the tests, Ann has pivoted to subscriptions. As media companies launched streaming plus channels, Ann rolled out 23andMe Plus, offering personalized health reports, lifestyle advice, and unspecified new reports and features as discoveries are made for an initial $229, with annual renewals of $69. When the company last disclosed the number of subscribers a year ago, it had 640,000, less than half the number it had projected it would have by then. In November, 23andMe launched an even more ambitious subscription product. This one includes a more comprehensive clinical-grade genetic test, as well as standard blood tests and appointments with 23andMe doctors. It costs $1,188 a year, billed up front with no insurance coverage. The product, Total Health, is the realization of Ann's dream to provide genetics-based medical care. The medical establishment hasn't adopted such testing as a standard procedure. To usher in the vision, 23andMe paid $400 million for struggling telehealth company Lemonade Health. Today, Lemonade still mostly prescribes drugs for conditions such as erectile dysfunction and hair loss, and has fallen behind rivals with bigger advertising budgets. Anne won't say how many 23andMe test takers consult Lemonade doctors, but acknowledges the number is very small, considering 23andMe hasn't integrated the telehealth company into its service. The company recently came under fire for security breaches that impacted 6.9 million users. 23andMe is facing more than 30 lawsuits after a data breach last year exposed personal information from nearly 7 million customers' profiles. Valued at $6 billion in 2021 when it went public, 23andMe now risks being delisted from the Nasdaq as its stock continues to trade below $1 a share. Anne says that the future of 23andMe is in harnessing their DNA database to find cures or treatments for cancer and autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and Crohn's disease. In 2018, 23andMe agreed to a 5-year exclusive drug development partnership with GSK, a London-based pharmaceutical and biotechnology company, also invested $300 million in the company. In 2022, GSK exercised an option to pay $50 million and extend the exclusive contract for another year. Last October, GSK paid the company another $20 million for a non-exclusive data license. Most of the data 23andMe has collected isn't available to the public. That makes it hard to analyze the company's value. But these deals give important hints about the company's viability as a DNA data provider. So far, the partnership between GSK and 23andMe has produced more than 50 new drug targets. 2 have already made their way to early-stage trials. Only about 1 in every 1,000 potential drugs makes it to human trials in the United States. The payoff for a successful drug could be huge, but successful development can take decades and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Anne is certain that genetic sequencing will transform healthcare and drug discovery, and that 23andMe is in a position to take full advantage of that when it happens. But drug discovery is a very long process, and it can be anywhere from 10 to 15 years on average from target discovery to an FDA-approved drug. The question is whether investors are willing to wait that long.